Gary, did you find the
Yeah, just went to the Supreme
story?
Court.
So there's this couple in Oregon, outside of Portland or something, I guess, the Kleins. And I guess they're Christian, and they bake.
Okay.
And evidently a lesbian couple who were clients.
I thought this was an Indiana case.
Oh, probably.
There've been a
It's
few.
going to be a few.
Okay.
They're clients who are, I guess, a lesbian couple of clients, and they give them their, their bran muffins or whatever.
Right.
But at some point, they said, I guess, I want you to bake us a cake for our nuptials.
For our nuptials,
and they said that goes against our religious teachings. And now the state, who sued them? They slapped them with like $135,000 levy and shut them down.
130.
Huh?
You don't forget numbers. That is exactly what it was.
How much? 135,000.
Well, by the way, when I have my multiple arguments with Lynette, where she goes, I told you that blah, blah, blah last night. And I was going, what did I say? You said okay. I'm like,
never happened.
Listen, I forget tons of stuff, just not this stuff. So
yeah, it was the Bureau of Labor and Industries who determined that the refusal constituted an unlawful discrimination and ordered them to pay $135K. So at first they said, I don't know about that, and then they decided to pay and appeal.
They paid the $135,000.
They put it into basically an escrow account.
An escrow account.
Yeah.
There must be somebody behind them. This makes no sense to me.
bankroll this.
Yeah,
What?
somebody must be
All right,
bankrolling.
so
it.
what was the story? Was
so,
that the story?
I mean, you've pretty much laid it out. It was 2011 or 12. I'm having trouble finding it here that this happened. They decided to pay. They went through the appeals process. In 2013, they closed the storefront shop and continued to operate it out of their home. In 2016, it folded all together, and it just got to the Supreme Court very recently. I think opening arguments were a week ago.
This is now I'm of two minds for this legally. First, personally, I should disclose that if lesbians want to patronize any of my businesses, they're welcome to, and I may even give them a discount.
Well, you got a place in Palm Springs,
I do.
so I'm guessing.
Yeah. So I personally do not understand. It's incomprehensible to me why that bothers them. But there is a issue here. I mean, there's clearly a legal issue here. And I don't understand the $135,000. I don't even know how that's possibly calculated to be anything that's non-arbitrary or capricious. That's just crazy.
I also don't understand. I don't understand kosher delis.
Right.
I don't get it. I like bacon. I don't. Yeah, but the hooven, the cloved hooves, and okay, it's all nonsense to me. But if that's your thing,
right?
I thought that's what this country was here for, and you can go.
Are we going to go to Pasadena Lake? Isn't there a Christian bookstore?
Yeah,
right on the left side as you're going when you get off the 210.
There's something for. Here's
right.
the deal. Here's the situation. People go, yeah, but what you're talking about, the Christian bookstore, the kosher deli, that's not affecting this couple. I mean, this is discrimination against this couple. And my feeling is, as long as there's 75 other bakeries who'd be happy to do this, we don't have a crisis here.
I also don't understand.
We also have gymnasiums that are just for ladies.
Right. I'm not going into the one in San Marino that's women only.
Women only.
Curves and Locknet, I think, is women only. Isn't
it? I don't know. It's fine if it is. That's, when you're starting a business, you're allowed to make that decision in my world. And then I'm allowed
to not patronize.
To not patronize.
And then you're allowed to, like these people apparently did, go out of business.
Here's an argument from Carson Whitehead, who's the Assistant Attorney General with the Oregon Department of Justice, arguing on the state's behalf. He also argued that the damages awarded to the couple were reasonable considering the emotional distress they experienced, the nature of the discrimination, and its impact on the couple's sense of self were harmful.
Okay, now
we're going insane, is what I'm saying. In a fight, this guy should do battle with Garcetti, and who's the better snowflake?
I think the thing that's outrageous about this is if the couple was emotionally damaged, why do they get the government to come in and assess the damages? Let them present their case in a courtroom and see what a jury does. Right. Why? I don't understand. Why do you get the imprint of the government doing your dirty work? Why isn't that see if you can get past the motion for summary judgment with a judge.
How much emotional damage is there? There are people
I didn't get my wedding cake.
Of many religions, not just Christianity, who don't recognize same-sex marriages, but they don't recognize many things that we might like them to recognize. They don't recognize that. I mean, it's like, you know how hard it is to go out on the road and do gigs with Dennis Prager, who can't fly or travel on a Friday after the sun goes down, or do a gig in Tampa on a Saturday because he can't get there. Whatever. I don't like that.
Right.
It's a Sabbath.
Right.
I respect it.
Right.
Or I don't. It's simply what he does. It's simply his choice.
This is so incomprehensible to me. I'm going to drill down into this because, Gary, I could see, were they on federal land? Were they on state land? Or I can see that. Okay, if this was, for instance, you go into most courthouses, there's a not a coffee shop, but there's usually a little sundry shop or you can buy drinks or things like that. I can understand if
Bob Ringwald,
Molly
Ringwald's dad,
right,
and Mom Adele ran one in the Van Nuys courthouse.
Right, exactly.
For many years. They had like a little coffee shop down in there.
Exactly. If they're refusing, I was on the third floor, I think. You get off the elevator and turn right.
Happy to say I've never been there.
I've eaten many a meal there.
Blessed.
I've eaten many a meal there.
Bob is blind.
Yeah. Well, that's because most of those in courthouses, there's a disability requirement.
Oh, it sort of makes sense. So Bob was blind.
Yeah.
And Bob would make his way from North Hollywood to Van Nuys on a bus.
Hopefully, okay, I was going to say, hopefully not driving.
I'd see a guy walking down Laurel Canyon with just no dog or anything, just a stick in front of him and going to the bus stop.
Yeah, well, see, that's who's going there. So,
all right,
they make in their day they made a mean grilled cheese. So
Adele could bake.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So I can understand if you're leasing a business that's on state property that you can't violate, whether it's the Unruh Act, which is our version of a Civil Rights Act in California, or you can't violate things that are protected under the law. I get that. The problem I've got is if I'm somebody who's operating a private business and I've got no state action, so to speak, then why can somebody tell me what I can do and what I can't do?
Well, aren't we talking about a pretty slippery slope here? Like, I make fun of the slippery slope people all the time because they're usually full of shit.
I call it the parade of horribles. You call it, right? The parade of horribles argument.
But in this case, I mean it. If the government and the state can come in, shut you down, basically, because of a religious bent, and this is how we conduct ourselves, we're not violating any health codes at our bakery where we have a religious conviction and we don't want to violate that. If the government can get involved with that and essentially shut you down, that's a future that I'm not looking forward to, because what the government does, and I don't want to sound like I got a vacation house on Ruby Ridge, but the problem with the government is they never stop. Well, it's not like they fold it, reel it in a little bit, or like repeal the. No, they just keep encroaching. And so if you can shut you down for this in 2016 or 14, what can we look forward to in 2050?
I just can't get over the $135,000. It blows my mind. But
what is a bureau? I don't know much about bureaus of labor, but what are they doing assigning numbers like that?
I don't understand how they think that they could assign $135,000 and that'll ever pass muster. But to Adam's point, this idea that this is precisely what I was saying about mom and pop type operations. There's no way you can deal with this. The Bureau of Labor comes in. If your margin in that bakery, what do you think it is? At the most 15%? On your best day? Because remember, on a day where it rains and people don't want to come out and you've baked all this stuff, you got to throw it away.
Yeah.
So boom, then you get hit. And God knows one day when somebody gets
well, this is a ma and pa, real husband and wife little business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not lawyers.
Right. And so they can't. Well, I'll give you another example. One I'm doing right now. Some guy, I was redoing the interior of the Engine Company restaurant, and we wanted to redo the bathrooms. It's a historical place. You got to be very careful. So as we're in the middle of it, some woman, they rolls in, who's in her wheelchair, and says there's only one handle and the other handle's not there. And I said, yeah, I know. We're in the midst of redoing the bathrooms right now.
In the stall, like a grab handle.
A grab handle. Well, as it turns out, she was just a plant by this scumbag lawyer who then sues us for an ADA violation. I sent him a letter. I said, dude, I will take this to trial. And so now he's saying, just pay me $4,000. He said, I'm not paying you anything. Zip. I'll go to trial. I'll sit there and I'll mock you. And I'll ask.
Hold on.
Okay.
F me money.
Yeah.
That's F me money. That transcends F you money, F me money.
F me money, right. Okay, let me see what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'll open up another file. Yeah, great. I've got lawyers here who would love nothing more than to try this case. And by the way, I will testify. And by the way, you've already admitted this was a complete scam because the woman's never been there before or since.
My biggest surprise / devastating disappointment in life is how many folks out there. And again, people with law degrees, people with doctoral degrees, people in government who are high officials and things like that. How many people out there are just fucking horrible?
Yeah.
This guy, I don't know. As I've told you, I had one of these guys living underneath me. Just wanted me to send him a check for $10,000.
Right. Just do it because you're Adam Carolla.
Do you have kids? Do you have a wife? Is there somebody that looks up to you? Do you look up to you? What do you do? I couldn't imagine going through life utterly soulless this way. And I know everyone goes, they just justify their existence. But really,
yeah, how
you sit around and have these thoughts, which, by the way, are just white-collar versions of I'm going to get drunk and beat the shit out of my old lady. I mean, it's the same. This is blue collar. Your fucking thought is I'm going to put this chick in a wheelchair. I'm going to roll and see if I make a quick $4,000.
Maybe they're going to pay me $4,500. No, I'm not going to pay you $4,500. When I win, I'm going to get attorney's fees out of you.
I think that kind of thought. The guy who gets drunk and beats the shit out of his own lady at least isn't planning it months in advance or going to work every day thinking about it. Yeah, this is the work. I am dumbfounded.
And this guy
I don't have a great moral compass. I'm an atheist. I couldn't imagine doing this.
Waking up in the morning and saying, this is my life's work. This is what I'm going to do. Well, I always say.
And also, what kind of bar, and I don't want to get you going, but I don't care. What kind of bar do you guys have? What kind of sanctioning body do you guys have that these guys get to exist and flourish?
Are you going to get me started on the state bar?
No. All right. I'm going to get started.